Aloha everyone, this is Tanya with Hawaii Homes by Tanya, and today my guest is John Aeto. Aeto, did I get that right?
Got it right, perfect.
Of the Kalaimoku Group, which is a communications firm. So he's going to tell us a little bit more about his company and what they plan to do during this COVID environment to help them be more resilient going forward. Okay, John, take it away.
So, as Tanya said, my name is John Aeto. I'm the president of the Kalaimoku Group. We are a Native Hawaiian communication firm that specializes in the Native Hawaiian and Pacific Islander communities. We do advertising, public relations, community relations, digital advertising, marketing, whatever you can think of. Our clients tend to be people that want to engage with the Hawaiian community, or when Hawaiian organizations want to engage in the Hawaiian community. So for instance, we work a lot with the Ali'i Trusts. Our clients are Kamehameha Schools, DHHL, Office of Hawaiian Affairs, Queen's Hospital, and we do an array of services for them. And the biggest change for us in this COVID environment has been working virtual. So we've been working on this contract that allows us to communicate and message all 50 states. So the first thing we had to do was find out where all the Kanakas are. We spent a lot of time researching, talking with organizations and other partner organizations, identifying where they are, where the Micronesian community is, where's the Tongan community, where's the Hawaiian community. So we work with the civic clubs, Kamehameha alumni, University of Hawaii alumni, and so forth. A big part of that process was travel. So I was on the road 2 weeks every month, 1 week in New York and 1 week in DC. And all of that stopped in February when the COVID-19 came. And it actually has been a blessing because travel, although it has a lot of benefits, it gets tiring and it's brutal because, you know, the capital of the United States is on the East Coast. All the action is in DC or New York. And the biggest change is how we can communicate with our client and with our target communities virtually. And it's been methods just like we're on right now with Zoom and Google and a lot of cell phone conversations. We're really blessed that the technology has gotten us to a place where we can have FaceTime and all this digital communications as it could have been if it had happened 25 years ago. So that's been our biggest thing, is not being able to travel. And I gotta tell you, sister, I love it. I love staying home, wearing my slippers every day and not having to put on my suits and trench through the cold and waking up in a strange city every day, a different hotel. And it gets lonely on the road.
Well, okay, so let's talk a little bit about your family, your background, where you grew up, where you're from, all that good stuff.
So I was born and raised in 𝐂𝐿. I was born and raised from very humble beginnings. I was born actually in Merite housing, raised by my maternal grandmother, and my parents divorced at a very young age. But what really helped me was Kamehameha schools. So I got in when I was in kindergarten, and that was sort of the stable factor for me through my youth. 13-year senior, after Kamehameha, went off to college in San Francisco and counted the days to literally come home and find a place to give back to our community. And so we're 𝐂𝐿. I still live in 𝐂𝐿. I cannot get out of 𝐂𝐿. I live up on the hill of Kamehameha.
Kind of talk about what exactly does your company do? I know you kind of mentioned some projects you guys are working on, but what exactly do you guys focus on? What is your main focus?
Basically, we're problem solvers. Organizations come to us with a specific problem that they're having, and it usually has to do with some way, some shape, the Hawaiian community. So we do an array of solutions that help them solve their problem. So for instance, one of our contracts was with Hawaii Tourism Authority. And they wanted to give back to the Hawaiian community, the overall community. And they also wanted to do something for the musicians. And what we came up with was the 𝐂𝐎𝐍𝐍𝐄𝐂𝐓 series, which was an opportunity to provide community concerts once a month or larger concerts once a quarter and watch these fantastic artists that we worked with, some of the best. We had Willie K, we had the 𝐂𝐎𝐍𝐍𝐄𝐓, we had 𝐂𝐎𝐎𝐍𝐍𝐄𝐓 all throughout this time, and then pay the artists almost a premium. So if they normally get $1,000, we would pay them $2,500. And this was the aloha on behalf of the Hawaii tourism industry, and really building that bridge between the visitor industry and the local community. Sometimes it gets a little frail, that bridge between us, and they wanted to let people know that we're all in this thing together. Working men and women in the state of Hawaii are attached to the visitor industry. And with the visitor industry being affected so hard by COVID-19 problems, they came to Kalaimoku.
Who's your target market specifically?
We'll work for anybody that makes sense. That's as long as they're doing good work in our community. Our expertise is with the Native Hawaiian community. So it's anybody that wants to talk to the Native Hawaiian community.
How do people find you?
Anytime, kalaimoku.com. We don't do a lot of work for individuals. Every so often we'll get a call from somebody like running for 𝐂𝐎𝐍𝐍𝐄𝐓 or 𝐂𝐎𝐍𝐍𝐄𝐓 saying, hey, can you help us? We're available on Facebook. We're available on the web. And you can always call 𝐂𝐎𝐍𝐍𝐄𝐓 or Kamehameha Schools and ask for the Kalaimoku Group, and they'll connect with us.
So your marketing is done mainly kind of word of mouth? You don't really advertise yourself?
We don't advertise. We don't work for the public per se. When we create, I used to run radio stations. So 𝐂𝐎𝐍𝐍𝐄𝐓 and 𝐂𝐻𝐿, I was part of the founding groups that created those music entities. And we became experts in really understanding the consumption of the Hawaiian community, the local community, where they bank, where they buy houses, what kind of cars they buy, and so forth. And so I found myself doing a lot of presentations to corporations and organizations when they wanted to reach the Hawaiian community. The Hawaiian community is a very robust and strong community with a tremendous amount of economic power. And I always tell my non-Hawaiian friends how lucky they are to live in Hawaii because of us Hawaiians' economic power. We're experts in understanding how the Native Hawaiian economy works. And so a lot of times we work for either federal, state, or the elite trust entities that are trying to do projects within those confines.
I don't know if you mentioned this, but I do want to kind of find out, how did you get started in doing what you're doing today?
You know, when I got out of college, I wasn't sure exactly what I wanted to do. Went to work for KCC on radio, and I was a salesperson there. And I thought, when you're a salesperson for business-to-business sales, you work with all these different businesses. And I thought to myself, I will do this for a few years and figure out what business I was really attracted to get in. And after doing it for about 2 or 3 years, I realized this is the type of business I want to get into. And so I stayed in radio for the first 25 years. I ran radio stations. And then in the last recession in 2009, my investors called in a note and we had to liquidate our properties. So I decided I wanted to do something different. In 2010, I went to the Office of Hawaiian Affairs and I took out a loan, a malama loan for $75,000. And I said, I'm going to create a company that focuses on the Native Hawaiian community, that serves the Native Hawaiian community and makes our community better.
Oh man, that message really resonates with me. Well, I don't know if you said this too, but how long has Kalaimoku Group been around?
We're celebrating our 10th anniversary, and we just recently paid off our malama loan, so even more better.
All right. On the subject of resiliency during this COVID time, what are your guys' plans? What is the future hold? What are you guys doing?
And the one thing I will share is the one thing I've learned over the years, and there was a great book by, I forget his name, Spencer something. It's on my book, Who Moved the Cheese? And it's all about change.
That's so true. I read that book a long time ago. Before we end our interview, what inspiring book or quote that you can maybe pass on to your listeners? And that was really great that you shared that. But do you have anything else that you could share?
This is my office, and I have Bibles, what I call books. So there's tons and tons of them. But there are a few that I like. Good to Great by Jack Welch is really good. Spencer Napoleon, his whole series of Think and Get Smart, Think and Be Rich are all great books.
We could go on and on and on, and I just so love my time with you. You're just such a wealth of information, and I just love how your brain works. Like, we should do this again. It was so fun.
Anytime, I'm happy to do it.
So thank you so much, John, for just all of your mana'o, and I appreciate your time. And any final words or thoughts for anyone that's going to be listening to this?
I just want to thank you. And we need more individuals like you that is serving the community, that's doing, no matter how small or how big, it all starts up with getting engaged in our community and doing what we're passionate about. It doesn't need to be something that they don't want to do. Whatever you're doing, whatever you can do for the Lahui, do it, because we need helping hands. Ho'olau lima, as we work together, plenty hands get plenty work done. There you go.
Take care. Aloha.
Aloha.